Then
And
send me the replay code.
oh, second.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna call you so I can screen share. Okay. There we go. Can you see my Overwatch?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Let's
It looks
see
pretty okay.
how this. Well, yeah, but the game hasn't started yet. You need to chill. Okay, how does it look like when I like turn the camera around?
Looks great, actually.
Actually, okay. Well, if it works, then it works. My PC is kind of going ham, so yeah, I'm going to limit the frame rate because I don't need my PC to die just for a little replay. This is still fine, right?
Yeah, just great.
Okay, very good. You are ghoul. There we go. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about FPS fundamentals first of all. So in your own words, what is the role of a DPS player right now?
Basically just to put damage in, try to get picks, punish mistakes the enemy could make. Somewhere there, and to pop off. At least that's all what I always try to do. But of course, that's what I meant by not being consistent. But talking about it made me realize that you can't really pop off every single game. Because...
Of course, that's completely normal. So how do we want to? So obviously we can't always be perfectly consistent, but what can we do to ensure that we're as consistent as possible?
Well, positioning, I suppose, mostly.
Can you specify?
Like if there's a Genji or a D.Va or a Winston or something diving you, for example, you have a safe way to get out. If I'm playing Widowmaker, for example, or that there's a team somewhere nearby if they can peel for me, for example.
Okay, that's number one. If we're dead, we can't really do anything. So that's number one. What's number two?
Not sure. Trying to aim and that.
Well, yeah, yes, but I mean, that's kind of a given. Obviously, you need to land your shots, right? So good positioning can help us be effective as a DPS. How else can we be more consistent besides positioning well?
Well, picking our targets.
So how do we select targets?
Depending on how high risk they are to the team, let's say. Or how important is that character for the enemy?
No, okay. Let me explain something to you. So there's three terms that you need to know. There's target focus, there's target value, and there's target priority. Okay. Target focus is the simplest of the terms. Target focus just refers to how many people are focusing a particular target. Okay. So if everyone on the team is focusing the main tank, then that's very good target focus because everyone is focusing their damage on one target. But if everyone is focusing a different person, then that's bad target focus. Okay. Now the two remaining terms are target value and target priority. And it's important because they're different. What you just described was target value. So that essentially means if I kill this character, how helpful is that to my team? Right? Should I kill the Genji or should I kill the Lucio? Which one is going to be more helpful to my team, right? The problem is value doesn't really take into account whether you can actually kill them. So generally speaking, the highest value target that you can kill right now in this current meta is the DPS characters most of the time, but that isn't always the case. If you're playing against like Tracer, Doomfist or something, then you're going to have a very, very difficult time killing them if you're on Widow. To be fair, in that case, you shouldn't be on Widow, but let's just say you're in that situation. So your best target might be one of the supports, right?
Okay.
But the problem is, especially during the current meta, DPS are kind of the most important targets to kill because they're an actual threat to your team, and supports can largely be ignored for the most part, at least for you as a DPS player. So the target priority would be DPS, then support, then tank. And but again, that's just in terms of value. Sometimes things change. For example, before hero bans were in the game, main tanks were actually the highest value target. because in order to actually kill anything, you needed to kill the main tank first. So if you could buy a button off Amazon that would kill a random person on the enemy team, you should buy the button that kills the enemy main tank, because that would be the highest value. But obviously he's not the highest priority target. So a target priority is less about how valuable someone is on the enemy team, but rather how easy it is for you to actually get that kill. Right? So maybe the enemy tracer is the highest value kill that you could get, but what's the point in chasing after her for a minute if you'll never actually kill her, while the enemy Ana is standing in the backline, scoped in, standing still, and she would be a free pick.
Yeah, okay,
right?
Fair enough.
So in order to be consistent, we shouldn't focus on the targets that are most important to kill. We should focus on the target that is the easiest to kill. If you're playing McCree Ana, for example, then the highest value target on the enemy team would be the D.Va, because the D.Va completely shuts you and the Ana down, right? All of her nades, all of her sleep darts, and your McCree ultimate is going to get eaten by the D.Va. Yeah. So if you could kill the D.Va, then you'd want to kill the D.Va. But the problem is, if you as McCree just spam a bunch of damage into the D.Va, by the time you get anywhere, for one, it's very easy for the enemy healers to heal her up, because she's a tank, she has armor, she has a large hitbox, so an Ana can just heal her up to full in 2 seconds. And by the time you actually do anything to her, the enemy DPS have already killed your entire team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
And that's where going for an easier target, even if it is less valuable, is the correct play.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So positioning helps us, our target priority helps us, and what's the last thing that helps us be more consistent, like to perform more consistently?
Teamwork, maybe?
Yes,
But
pretty
like
much.
on an individual level?
So synergy, right? Synergy. So for example, on your team, kind of obvious, you have a Mercy. Mercy synergizes really, really, really well with Widowmaker, which means that picking Widowmaker when you have someone who synergizes with you, in this case the Mercy, will also help you be more consistent overall. Okay. Obviously, there are if you have a Zenyatta, then Tracer could be really good, because Tracer and Zenyatta synergize really well. He can just orb you and he can discord your targets, and it's all really, really nice, right? Yeah. If you have, say, I don't know, the obvious example for projectile players, for example, is Pharah. If you have a Mercy, then Pharah all of a sudden becomes a pretty viable pick, right? If you have a frontline that is very divey, right? If you have a Winston D.Va, for example, then that also synergizes well with characters like Sombra, Tracer, Doomfist, Genji, etc. So looking at what your team comp wants to do and how they can help you is pretty important. So previously, the game used to be a lot less one-sided, where not only should you look at your team and then pick something that works well with them, but also something that can help the team, right? So for example, if you had a shield break composition, then you don't just want to pick something that, like, let's say you have a shield break comp with, like, a comp with a bunch of shields, like an Orisa Sigma, for example, and you have a Mercy. In that case, right, you could go, oh, well, we have a Mercy, I'm just going to go Widow, right? But while the Mercy helps you, the Widowmaker doesn't really help the team, because their team wants to play around their strengths, around the shields. So in that case, it would have actually been better to go for something that can break shields faster, so a Hanzo or a McCree, right? Oh, okay. Now the game doesn't really work that way anymore. Now, as a DPS player, you can just be super duper selfish. So you don't really care about how your team plays and how you can help them. You just care about being as effective and as annoying to the enemy team as possible, which obviously makes it a lot easier in the end to choose an appropriate hero. It also means that map choice is very, very important, right? So not just synergy with your teammates, but also synergy with the map. So for example, Widowmaker here on Dorado is pretty good, because there's a lot of very long sidelines, there's a lot of high ground that you can abuse, right? This is like first point Dorado defense. If you stand on top of that archway at the end, that's a super strong position. Yeah. But if you are on a different map, maybe you're playing Lijiang Control Center, in that case, Widowmaker would be kind of a throw pick, even if you have a Mercy, right? In that case, you would rather pick something that's a little bit better for close quarters. Yeah. So in that case, probably McCree. Okay. Right. So you need to play around the map. You need to play around how your teammates can help you. You need to correctly prioritize targets. And yeah, you need to position in a way that makes it so that you don't perma-feed, but that's kind of a given.
Yeah.
Did all of that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So now we need to, oh crud. I'm not used to, you know, like when I review the VODs, I just press spacebar and then it plays. But now spacebar just goes into third person. So I need to get used to it. What's the keybind for this actually? Let me figure out the controls real quick so I don't have to always bring up that thingy. Spectate, replay. Is there not like a play and pause keybind?
I can't really see what it is.
I mean, there's like moderator pause game. Euro select. Am I stupid?
No, I can't see it either.
Jump to start, media controls, spectator.
Spectate toggle pause. It's there if you go down.
Spectator
Control
toggle pause. Well, I mean.
I think so. I'm not sure.
Ooh, yeah, that's actually it. You're too big brain for this world. Let me just bind that to something a little bit more. Let's bind it to J, I guess. Whatever. Oh yes, a very good perspective. Nice one, replay here. Okay. Okay. So this position back here. Also, I need to turn the volume down a little bit. Oh no, I can hear Tracer shooting. Okay. This is why I don't like the replay viewer. It's really, really awkward.
Yeah.
Because I'm only using like your perspective anyways. The main advantage of the replay viewer is that I can do this.
See, oh yeah.
But I don't really need this. Like it's kind of irrelevant for a review like this. But yeah. So your position here, generally speaking, is okay. What is the main problem with your position though?
Well, I can't really see anyone at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
so
it would have been okay if I get a pick and then change positions, but I overstayed a bit, I suppose.
Yeah. So the main issue with the position is that the actual sideline that you have is very, very limited. You can you see my, oh, you can't even see my cursor. See, like I wish I could draw on the screen, but I can't. Okay.
I'm so sorry, man.
Okay, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. So you can see like,
yeah.
You can only see a very small fraction, which means that it's very easy for the enemy team to avoid you. Like, do you see how they can push the cart without you even like really being able to do anything? Yeah. That's a problem, right? The enemy team needs to attack. In order to actually push the payload, they need to expose themselves. Right, it's very predictable. They need to make it. You need to force them to make a choice. It's called a dilemma, where they need to choose between two things, both of which are bad. Either they don't push the payload and they hide from you, in which case, GG, or they push the payload but then they can't hide, which opens them up to getting killed by you. The problem is right here, they can push the payload without needing to deal with you. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Number two is you're very, very far away from your team. Where's your Mercy and Lucio? Can you see them?
Yeah.
What the hell are they supposed to do to help you?
Well, nothing at this point. Just
right. And as I mentioned earlier, you need to be very selfish. You always need to ask yourself, how can I abuse my teammates? How can I take advantage of them? But you can't really take advantage of your healers if you're not even remotely close to them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And if they do come to heal you, it's, for one, they're going to risk their lives, because if the Mercy comes over to you here when there's a huge team fight going on, then obviously she's probably going to die, which is a problem. And she's going to be so far away from the rest of the team. What happens if the Winston contests the payload, but the Widowmaker has to heal you? How is she supposed to heal the Winston?
Yeah, take away resources.
So in this position, the enemy team can just push card for free while you can't shoot them. You're very far away from your healers. And the last issue is, what's your escape route here? Where are you going if shit goes wrong?
Well, jumping down to the right.
Right, but what's the problem about doing that?
Not sure. Maybe being too slow, or...
Well, I'm pretty sure that we should be able to see it in a second. Do you see the problem?
Yeah.
What is the problem?
There's literally no one here.
Yes. So what are you contributing to your team right now?
Absolutely.
Literally nothing. Do you see how fucking useless you are?
Yeah.
Okay. Now this position is much better because do you see how it's impossible for the enemy team to push the payload without standing in front of you?
Yeah.
The enemy team comp actually, like, they make it easy and hard for you. So obviously there aren't a lot of easy targets on the enemy team. All of them are very difficult for you to kill as Widowmaker, but they also can't really hide. Like, it's very difficult for, like, they don't have a shield or something they can play behind, right? So if your aim is good, then this is kind of a free win if everything else is good as well, right? So aim is obviously always the last thing, but having good aim doesn't matter if, you know, you've spent the first 20 seconds of the game doing nothing.
Okay. Fair enough.
But yeah, the enemy tracer is actually doing stuff, so I can hide that. Okay, very nice. And this is the whole problem about not being with your supports. Your supports are not really here because actually, thanks to the replay viewer, we can simply check where your Mercy died. Okay, let's just look at this from the Mercy's perspective. Okay, she's already dead here. Never mind. Let's go back a little bit further. Okay, so this is where she starts. Okay. Just look at this. How the frick is she supposed to help you? Okay. So the Winston goes in. She goes in with the Winston. Okay. And do you see how there's this huge fight going on here? And you're doing absolutely nothing to help them?
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of a problem. Because, like, the Mercy just can't heal this much. Right? The Mercy can stall people from dying, but she can't actually just, you know, completely prevent it, right? Eventually, eventually the amount of damage is just going to be too much, right? And obviously, if she gets focused, then she just dies.
Yeah.
Right? So this fight right here is kind of what decided everything. Because now your support is dead, which is a pretty big problem. Your support is dead, your main tank is dead. At this point, you being able to kill the Tracer doesn't really matter, because who is supposed to heal you?
Well, I wasn't really aware of my HP either.
Right? As a DPS, because you're so squishy, it is really important to always be aware of where your supports are. And obviously when your supports aren't with you, then you need to play a lot more careful. So after seeing that your Mercy died, you should have just fallen back immediately and regroup with them.
Okay.
Okay. So you switch to McCree. Is there a reason for that?
I'm not sure. Maybe because their team is was a bit too divish with Winston and the Diva and the Genji and the Tracer. Mostly as a counter for the Genji and the Tracer.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just important that every single time you swap, you always need to think about the value that you're giving up. In this case, you only had 40% of your ult, which isn't really like a huge deal. And Widowmaker ultimate in general isn't really that important.
Yeah.
But if you're playing McCree, for example, and you have your ultimate, then it's generally best. Like a McCree with ultimate is usually better than any other character without their ultimate. So you should just use your ultimate first and then swap. In this case, it's Widowmaker's ultimate and it's only 40%. So swapping here is completely fine if it means you can deal with the enemy team better. Okay. I mean, yeah, to be honest, like, it's kind of too late at this point. Your main priority now needs to be to just stay alive as long as possible while your team regroups. See, so this is a problem. So we talked earlier about target value and about who to kill. So the reason you picked McCree is so that you can actually deal with the Genji and the Tracer, right?
Yeah.
So, but you're making the mistake of choosing the wrong target. So you know that the enemy DPS are chilling over there on the left side, applying pressure to your backline.
Yeah.
Right? So if you go there, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to keep the enemy DPS busy, because if they're focusing you, then they're not focusing your teammates. Or you kill their DPS, which means the enemy team doesn't have any damage, and you just win the team fight.
Okay.
Right? But the problem is, if you ignore them, who do you think is going to be more useful? Okay, let's... man, my mic stand is being really annoying. Who do you think is going to be more effective? Okay? these two trying to kill the Torbjorn, or you trying to kill a D.Va, a Brigitte, and a Winston? Who do you think is going to get a kill first?
Probably me. Nah, just kidding. Yeah, it's obvious.
Right,
Yeah.
so obviously they're probably going to be a little bit more successful, right? There we go.
Yeah,
they got a
yeah,
kill.
Yeah.
And what did you during that time? Literally nothing.
Wanking. Yeah.
Right? If you would have been there, like, I think you could have killed that Genji and maybe even the Tracer as well. Right?
Yeah.
So instead of being in a 5v6, you could have been in a 6v4, which is obviously much better.
Yeah. Okay.
Why didn't you use your flashbang?
I'm not sure. I was waiting for the recall or something.
Don't. Ideally, you want to wait for a blink, but you don't want to wait for the recall. Like, after she blinks, you should have just immediately flicked 180 degrees and just flashbanged. Because she should be dead right now.
Yeah.
Like, Tracers, especially good ones, tend to stay away. So, okay, obviously a good Tracer wouldn't have blinked into your flashbang range, right? But generally speaking, when they blink once, they're not going to blink immediately again. Usually the way that Tracers play is they shoot a clip, and then while they're reloading, they blink. And then they shoot a clip, and then while they're reloading, they blink, right?
Yeah.
Which means that after they blink, right, they don't want to blink again because then they're wasting time, right? They want to shoot first so they can actually deal damage.
Yeah,
and during that time, right, so again, we can look at this from the Tracer's perspective. Done. Oh, this is too far. Okay, this Tracer kind of sucks, I'm not gonna lie. But it's okay. So right here. Do you see how she wants to shoot that clip after blinking?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Right? That's when you can kill her.
Hmm.
That's when you need to take your opportunity. And again, this is just like, that's kind of FPS fundamentals, like just being able to react to stuff like that quickly, which is again something that you didn't really have the chance to get yet. Because if you would have killed her, then you would have actually had, you know, a chance. But now, like, this isn't really that good because you're wasting a lot of damage into the D.Va. And it just costs a lot of time. And, you know, while you were shooting the D.Va, the enemy DPS are actually getting kills.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Oh, crud. Oh my god. I haven't been in the spectator mode in so long. I forgot how it worked. And like, to be completely honest with you, like, your mechanics are completely fine. Which is kind of to be expected. Like, right there, like, you just shit on this Genji so hard, he's gonna call his mother after this game is over to apologize for being a failure. Like, mechanically, you're completely fine. Which is to be expected given how much you play. Like, 28 hours a week is a very solid amount of time. See, there we go. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. So you shit on the Genji, you shit on the Tracer. What does the enemy team have now?
2 tanks, 2 supports. That's it.
Like, who the hell here is supposed to kill you?
Yeah.
Right? The enemy team doesn't really have anything. And this time you went for the flashbang after the Tracer blinked, right? So there she blinked, you flashbang, headshot, easy. And obviously, like, now this team fight is really just clean up. Like, you're just farming ult charge. Again, like, honestly, your aim is above average for sure for this rank.
Okay.
Like, your aim shouldn't really become an issue until High Master. Honestly, even then, you'd still be fine.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Overwatch isn't as mechanically demanding as a lot of other games. If you were playing Counter-Strike, it's different because it's a lot more mechanics heavy. Overwatch is... Like, it's still mechanics heavy, it's an FPS game after all, but it's not as mechanics heavy. Now here, if we look at this position again, do you notice something?
Well, I'm not with the team, for example. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a Tracer and a McCree looking at me directly.
Yeah. So the problem is, there's no reason for you to be here. Like, it's just a risk. Because the enemy DPS can just come for you. I have no idea how they didn't kill her, but... Oh, because she was on the health pack. That is very unfortunate. But yeah, luckily your Mercy comes to save you.
Yeah, but I still die, I think, yeah.
How did you die?
I think a chip by the McCree, probably.
Yeah, I think yeah, probably. Like, you could just got one shot. See, so that's a problem. Ideally, you should have just stayed with your team from the beginning. Pretty much the only time you want to split from your team is if it's the only way you can actually do anything.
Okay.
Like, if you're just shooting shields, for example, then staying with the team isn't really that great, because what's the point in living if you're not doing anything?
Right.
Right? But if you can do something while being with your team, then it's better to just go for the consistent safe play. Going to the high ground. So fundamentally speaking, going to the high ground is a good idea. Right here, it's a little bit dangerous. Why?
Diva, Winston.
Yes, so for one, they can force you down, that's true, but that's not even necessarily the main reason, because you can still get a really good ultimate from up here. The main reason why this is problematic is because you don't really have the time. Like, there's a team fight going on. So similar to, do you remember on Widowmaker where you were just walking around, not really doing anything?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing here. So the problem is that by the time you actually arrive, the team fight could already be over. In this case, you're lucky, everything is fine. I don't know what the fuck. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just ult?
Oh man.
Like,
I'm a bit overly cautious when Diva has his mech, but
no, literally all you had to do here was just ult, like press Q. Because either the enemy team starts jumping after you, which is fine. It means that they're all chasing after you and you can just drop down and then they're wasting their time. Or you can get a pick. Like that Lucio, free pick.
Yeah. Now that, yeah.
But you just wasted 20 seconds leaving your team alone so you could get on high ground just to not even use it and just roll down.
Yeah.
This is the kind of shit that keeps people hard stuck plat. And do you see what the enemy McCree is doing? He got a kill with his ultimate.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, that's the problem. Like, it's just really, really awkward if you're playing from up here. Like, the way you need to use your McCree ultimate against a Diva is you either need to be able to hold it long enough to where her matrix just runs out, or you need to be able to use it where you can get a kill faster than she can react. So if you're on high ground, for example, but she doesn't know you're on high ground. Let's say you just arrived on high ground. Actually, I can just show you. Yeah. So let's just say you wouldn't have fired any shots here. Let's just say you would have kept walking. Then right here, the enemy Diva would have no idea that you're up here. So you can ult, and then the moment you ult, first she has to find you. She has to figure out where you are. And by the time she does that, you probably could have already gotten a kill.
Okay.
So you either need to surprise the Diva or use your ultimate when you know that you can ignore the Diva.
Okay.
But yeah, right there, because the Diva was looking at you, you just needed to hold your ultimate longer until her matrix runs out. It's kind of like when a Genji deflects, you don't just want to shoot, you want to wait until the deflect runs out. Just treat Diva matrix the same. Unless you know you can get a kill even though she's matrixing, like if someone is on an off angle or something. But yeah, right now you just need to wait for tanks. But yeah, this just isn't really a super great spot. You're kind of getting carried, which is okay. Like some team fights, you just need to let your team carry. Also, if you would have died to the Diva bomb, you're so lucky, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Good, so now we can go on high ground. Because now you know that there's nothing really that the enemy team can do. So you can either go to the top right high ground. The main advantage is that you can see the enemy team like sooner. The main problem is you're also going to be closer to the enemy team, so it's easier for them to contest you. Or because the payload is at the end anyways, you can go to the high ground on the top left, and then when the enemy team comes from the right side, you can just ult them from a distance.
Okay. I would have also had time to go there.
Yeah, but see, like now you could go to high ground for free because nothing is happening, but you're not. Instead, you're just shooting shields. Yeah. Like what are you doing right now? This is completely useless. You could have been on the high ground already. Like now, okay, now you can actually deal damage to the enemy DPS. But again,
yeah,
that's the problem. That's why you want to be on high ground, because on high ground you can use the ledge as cover, so you're not as exposed. Okay, see, so that ultimate was fine because you knew that you could just hold it forever, right?
Yeah.
To be honest, what I would have done actually, no, this was the correct play. I was about to suggest you go to the top left high ground first, but to be honest, you didn't really have the time to get there because the enemy team is already right there. So using your ultimate there was fine. Okay, the Torb ultimate is kind of... See, so this is a problem. You're focusing the Roadhog.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, do you see these guys?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Just look at it from his perspective. Like, look at you.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah. It's
and look, he whiffs every single shot. You could have shit on him so hard. All you had to do was just look at him.
Oh, this is so dumb. Oh my god.
Oh my god, you're just... Oh, this is He misses everything! And then he kills you!
Yeah,
oh my god, dude.
Yeah, I got stuck in the face.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's a shit show, I know.
Man, I took that back. I kind of like the replay viewer. It's much easier to see someone's own stupidity from the enemy's perspective. Okay, why are you on soldier?
I'm not sure. I absolutely at this point
I'm not really sure either. You don't really. I mean, I guess you wanted to get back to the point faster, but in that case, why wouldn't you go chaser?
Yeah.
Like.
Maybe. Oh yeah, I think because of the Torbjorn turret, so like a helix, the turret. But
I guess. But is the Torbjorn really the problem on the enemy team?
No, I think it's the Roadhog now that I'm.
Yeah, you're kind of answering a question that hasn't really been asked. Like, Soldier is a decent all-rounder, but honestly, you just threw away ult charge. I mean, to be fair, you didn't throw away a lot of ult charge because you just ulted. Like, again, you're dunking on that McCree so hard mechanically, he has literally zero chance. He shouldn't be able to do anything throughout this entire game. Good, focusing the McCree. So one of the reasons, and this is another fundamental concept that I can tell you, what's better? Let's say you have two abilities, okay? One of them just deals, I don't know, I need to find a good example that actually makes sense. Okay, so sometimes Tracer or Winston players, they use melee. Like, as a part of their combo, right? Like, when a Winston is zapping someone, they just melee. Do you know why they do that?
Animation canceling?
No.
Or to execute? Because it does 30 damage, I think.
Well, yeah, but why don't they just keep shooting? Like, the Winston, why doesn't he just keep shooting? Doesn't that deal more DPS?
Well, if they are out of, or it doesn't deal enough burst, I suppose.
Yes.
It doesn't deal damage enough in.
Exactly. So this is another like very important fundamental concept that you can't really get from Osu. So it's always important to take into account how the enemy team can react to you. So you might think, oh, Soldier is really good here because I deal a lot of DPS. right? Like the Roadhog, for example, you can just melt the Roadhog as a soldier. The problem is, the main advantage that McCree has is that his damage is burst. If you land a McCree headshot, then you deal 140 damage, bam, right into their face. But with Soldier, your damage is very continuous. And if your damage is continuous, then you give the enemy team a lot of time to react. So sure, maybe the McCree deals less damage per second, but his damage isn't, like, he can't get healed against as quickly. And during this current meta, you don't, or not during this current meta, like, in general, you don't really want to waste your time shooting tanks right now. You want to go for squishies as much as possible. And for squishies, it's very important that you have a lot of burst damage, because then the enemy healers can't heal them.
Okay.
Like, the enemy team have a Brigitte and a Lucio. Do you know how easy it is to kill that McCree?
Right.
Right, because there just isn't really a lot of healing. But yeah, like, even right there, you're lucky that the enemy team has literally 0 healing, or that Lucio would have gone away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing with your ultimate. Like, McCree's ultimate deals burst damage. You can't out-heal a McCree ultimate.
Right.
But with Soldier ultimate, like, the enemy Brigitte just uses her ultimate, and then you can't do anything. Well, I mean, obviously, if she dies, then that's another thing, but... And even then, your mechanics are already good, so your ultimate, honestly, just doesn't really do anything. Like, see, do you see how quickly you died?
Yeah, two shots.
Exactly. Like, what are your healers supposed to do there?
Good.
Yeah, well, I think we are approaching the end of this journey.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, again, this ultimate is completely useless.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Not. I don't have any special now. Like.
You don't have any questions?
No, I don't think so.
Like, no questions?
I'm trying to think of something. I think at this point, a lot was depending on my mindset too, actually, because I think this was my 3rd or 4th loss in a row. And at this point, I think I was a bit too desperate.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go pro, then you can't really afford to go and get frustrated after 4 ranked losses. Like, these ranked games, like, if you think about it, these are diamond ranked games. Do you think anyone really cares?
Right, yeah, fair enough.
Right, like, these games are so irrelevant, you might as well be playing quick play. Like, the outcome of these matches doesn't matter. Of course, if you lose an Overwatch League match, it's okay to get a little tilted. But losing a diamond ranked match is just so ridiculously irrelevant. There's no reason to get frustrated about it.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So the best way you told me to warm up would be FFA, right?
Yes.
What do you think about things as Aim Hero or Kovacs?
I wouldn't really bother with them. Like, the main advantage of tools like that is learning how to aim, but it's not really super useful for warming up compared to free-for-all, because you're not warming up. Like, ideally, you should warm up in the game you actually want to play. So yeah, if you're new to FPS games, then I can recommend Kovacs or Aim Hero. But to be honest, you don't really, like, you know how to use a mouse. You've been playing Osu. Like, that's one of the skills that kind of transfers over. Well, actually, you didn't play with a mouse, never mind.
No.
Well, it doesn't matter. You play 28 hours a week. Your mechanics are more than good enough.
Okay, fair enough. So, what I should focus here, just to recap stuff, is my target priority, basically. The synergies that I can use to exploit the team I have for myself, basically.
Positioning.
Yeah, positioning. That's what I feel like that I have to work a lot on it. Like there were times when people. I'm not trying to brag or anything. Doesn't. Like a person told me, and it really stuck with me, that I look like I have like GM aim, but I position like a bronze. And
I mean,
it
he's
kind
not
of
really wrong. It's pretty much the
Yeah.
same thing that I told you.
Yeah, exactly. That I really have to focus on thinking about what I do actually. Like the one when I was up high ground and I could have just ulted, but I whiffed. I didn't know. I was brain dead, Pepega, and just rolled down for no reason at all. Yeah, well, I think that's about it for now. I can't really think of anything else, but you told me that if I have any questions, I can ask.
Yeah, you
after, right?
can always DM me.